Sandra Gumansing. In our top story, Royal Caribbean's Adventures of the Seas will evacuate residents with medical needs from the territory this weekend. Governor Kenneth Mapp reported on several important developments in the joint efforts of the governments and its partners to restore essential services throughout the territory, evacuate residents and special needs and gradually progress towards normalcy. Here's more from that press conference. Governor Kenneth Mapp confirmed that the Royal Caribbean's Adventure of the Seas cruise ship will travel from Puerto Rico, arriving St. Croix on Friday before departing for Fort Lauderdale via St. Thomas on Saturday.
This ship will have 1,000 passenger allotment for the Virgin Islands. It is also going to pick folks up in Puerto Rico and take them up to Florida.
The ship will accommodate up to 750 passengers from St. Croix, up to 200 passengers from St. John, and 50 from St. Thomas.
The number that you can call is 713-6801. 713-6801.
Priority for passage will be given to high-risk pregnant women, the elderly, and those with urgent medical needs. Through the Emergency Operations Command, the Department of Tourism has pre-registered the St. Thomas passengers and approximately 400 individuals from St. Croix for evacuation. The governor says to date, the government of the VI has assisted with the evacuation of more than 2,000 passengers from St. Thomas since Hurricane Irma.
We have several other requests made for additional mercy missions, and we will alert everyone. The Cyril Key, we want to confirm that the Cyril E. King Airport will and is scheduled to open to resume commercial flights on Thursday. So we will check with your airline to confirm flights. What we have done as a government is in at least two of the incidences, they were able to find the person to a shelter, and we were asked and provided a certification letter that they did, or a manifest, a copy of the manifest to show that the person did come up on a mercy mission and left an emergency area, an area with a devastation, and so those shelters or places have agreed to give them a number of days of support, clothing and help and meals, until they make some kind of real arrangement to come back. And there's no mercy mission to come back to the Virgin Islands. There's no free flights to come back, no free cruises to come back to the Virgin Islands. So I just wanted to tell about the experiences, so that people know and understand that this is serious, and you've got to be very, very careful and think through directly when you're making a decision to go on a mercy mission if you don't have the resources to support yourself as you end up in a major American city going forward.
Now, as part of that press conference, the governor says while several hundred residents remain in shelters throughout the territory and thousands were served at points of distribution on Tuesday, grocery stores, gas stations, and pharmacies were open for business. There was no distribution of supplies of pods today, Wednesday. The curfew will be relaxed to allow for the potential resumption of some classes at private schools, as well as the management of normal activities. On Wednesday, September 27th, the curfew in St. Croix was reduced by 3 hours, with residents permitted to be outside their homes between 11 a.m. and 6 p.m. on St. Thomas, St. John, and Water Island. The curfew was in effect from 6 to 8, giving residents an additional hour outside of their homes. Well, as we just mentioned, the governor announced in that press conference last evening that registration points would have been open today on St. Croix for individuals that were seeking to leave the island on a Mercy cruise ship that has 300 cabins. It left with a capacity of 1,000. The points of registrations were at St. Croix Cotton Valley Fire Station, VI Cardiac Center at Juan Louis and Anne Abramson Pier in Frederiksted, and in the St. John Powell Park. Now, we spoke to one tourist trying to leave the island today. Here's more.
I came down as a tourist. My daughter was doing a rotation as a physician assistant student here for 5 weeks, and I said I'll just come down 10 days. Maria was coming. She was unable to get off island. I was unable to get off island. And daily since then, we've been making the phone calls to the numbers that they tell us. We've been getting through. We've left our name. We've left our phone number. And yet every day we still get told we're not registered. Today we're told that they will register 100 people from this facility to hopefully get on the cruise ship. They've taken, I forget the number, but a large number of who's going to get on the cruise ship has already been deemed to be urgent, when they don't even ask you anything about yourself, just your name and your phone number. They don't ask if we have medical problems. They just say, get in another line another day. Some of the locals are still having trouble getting their water, their MREs. We see that the planes are coming in with military people. Some of those planes are leaving. We see them flying overhead. I don't know who would possibly be on them, but that would be a great way to evacuate people. It's just very frustrating. We spoke to the head of the Department of Tourism, and she told us we were all set, we were on a list, we were part of a hospital team, and yet here I am again today. It's 8 o'clock this morning in the sun, waiting until 12:30 with all these other people. The first 100 people, we're told, will be able to get.
Count on two to keep you updated. Well, MAP says cruise lines are anxious to resume flights, to resume visits to the Virgin Islands. MAP told members of the business community at a meeting on St. Thomas on Tuesday. He said cruise ships would like to return to St. Thomas and St. Croix as soon as October 15th, while adding that he believes late October is a more realistic target. A formal announcement from the cruise lines and the U.S. Virgin Islands government is expected next week. More than 150 representatives from the private sector met with the governor, Commissioner of Tourism Beverly Nicholson-Doty, and other officials at the GERS conference room on St. Thomas. Governor Mapp told those assembled he was eager to hear how business have been managing in the aftermath of the two back-to-back Category 5 hurricanes, and to learn more about how the government can assist those in the private sector to get Virgin Islanders back to work. While many had concerns about power restoration, the diesel supply, and the removal of debris, optimism prevailed, he said. Most stated they were pleased with the government's response to the significant challenges created as a result of the storms. Many merchants recall the experience of Hurricane Marilyn and say they understand the realities of a difficult recovery process. Several businesses that serve cruise ship passengers are prepared to welcome visitors. According to Pash Daswani, who's the president of the India Association, he said that the association members who own Shalimali businesses are fully operational. Main Street, Crown Bay, and Havenside, he says, are ready to open. Commissioner Nicholson-Doty said that the cruise lines have requested a status report on beaches in the VI and other attractions, and that representatives would soon visit to assess sites in the territory so they can start scheduling cruise calls. They don't expect perfection, they say, but they do expect honesty. Some restaurants, shops, and beaches must be fully accessible in order for ships to return to the territory. They must be able to assure safety, she explained. The West Indian Company Limited, which manages St. Thomas's main cruise pier, was largely undamaged by the storm, according to WICO's CEO Clifford Graham. He said, we did lose some security fencing and lighting, but we are working diligently on repairs and to pull in debris out of the water. The governor said his priorities for tourism include reopening Magens Bay, working with the federal government to reopen the Virgin Islands National Park on St. John, and providing power to the island's business districts, while many of the major hotels expect to be closed while damages are assessed and repairs are made. Both the government and business owners remain optimistic, they say, about the future. Well, the Sir Lee King Airport, as we reported, is set to open on Thursday, September 28th, for commercial flights. Travelers are urged to check with their airline for flight schedules and arrive 3 to 4 hours prior to their flight time. Flights may be scheduled on American Airlines for Miami, Florida, Delta, Atlanta, Georgia, JetBlue, San Juan, Puerto Rico. Vipa has not yet confirmed with United or Spirit. The Henry E. Rolson Airport on St. Croix is closed to commercial flights. Cleanup and repairs are underway, and Vipa has tentatively planned to open the airport on St. Croix next week. For the seaports, the USVI seaports are open, but vessels may only operate during daylight hours. Per U.S. Coast Guard instructions, inter-island ferry and barge services are operating. Governor Mapp reported that the Virgin Islands Water and Power Authority, the Waste Management Authority, and VIA, and the Department of Public Works are meeting daily to coordinate debris removal, road clearance, restoration of power lines and poles, and other issues to help restore the territory's infrastructure. Executive Director of the Virgin Islands Waste Management Authority, Roger Merritt, said his teams will continue to add capacity to all 4 islands to collect and dispose of garbage, noting that residents are generating 4 to 5 times more waste than before the hurricanes. He asked for only household waste to be deposited at bin sites for the time being. Director Merritt commended Waste Management Authority staff and contractors for working from sunup to sundown to collect trash.
Actually, we started the cleanup efforts before Irma. We knew that there was going to be additional trash that was going to be generated with Irma coming in. So basically, you know, a lot of the bin sites that we actually collect from, we collected those bin sites 2 to 3 times more prior to the storm, and then once the storm hit, once Irma hit, we actually have been collecting 4 to 5 times as much on a regular basis. And then obviously after Maria, the same thing. I just came back from St. Croix, met with our contractors there. You know, Maria just happened over there, but basically, you know, we met and we're in the same. We're going to be in the same mode where they're going to be collecting early in the morning while all the citizens, you know, the curfew's from 12 to 4, so from 6 approximately to about 11, we'll be able to really hit those areas hard, and then after the curfew too. So we're going to assess St. John. I mean, there's a couple of things that we need to do. We know that there's, like I said earlier, the trash is being generated at a rate of 4 to 5 times. The St. John is unique in the sense that we collect the trash and then we take it and put it on a barge and then bring it over to St. Thomas and actually dispose of it at the landfill. So what we need to do is take a look at the trash has been generated. There's been some issues with the barge being impacted by the different hurricanes. So we're actually going to go over tomorrow and take a look and figure out what's the best way to get the trash off of St. John in the most efficient, effective way possible. Because as we know, the trash is still being generated. We're collecting it, but we want to make sure we can get it off the island as quickly as possible.
And turning to our neighbors, Puerto Rico is reeling from the devastation also left by Hurricane Maria, and the territory's officials are reminding Washington, we are Americans too. President Trump held a meeting with key advisors Tuesday afternoon on hurricane relief and recovery efforts, but some have criticized the speed of the White House response. Karen Kaifa reports.
President Trump made additional disaster assistance available to Puerto Rico Tuesday and said he'll visit the storm-ravaged island next week.
We're working very, very hard on Puerto Rico. We're also getting tremendous efforts and we're sending tremendous amounts of supplies to the Virgin Islands.
But critics say the White House has not moved quickly enough to help the U.S. territory after Hurricane Maria.
It was a massive disaster that requires a massive response from the federal government. That has not happened.
Puerto Rico was already more than $70 billion in debt before Maria tore through and cut off most communications and knocked out power. The mayor of San Juan urged Washington to set aside the debt issues when considering aid.
That SOS needs to be heard loud and clear, and please, let's just talk about that. Let's not talk about the debt. Let's talk about the deaths.
House Speaker Paul Ryan said Puerto Rico will get the same storm support as Texas and Florida.
This is our country, and these are our fellow citizens. They need our help, and they're going to get our help.
The island creating unique challenges to getting supplies in and restoring power. The FAA and FEMA are working together to manage the number of flights in and out of San Juan's airport, with relief planes given priority over commercial traffic, but making it hard for those seeking to escape the devastation. In Washington, I'm Karen Kaifa.
Keeping our eye on the economy, today President Donald Trump made an additional disaster assistance available to the territory of the USVI by authorizing an increase in the level of federal funding for debris removal and emergency protective measures undertaken in the USVI as a result of Hurricane Irma during the period of September 5th to 7th, 2017. On September 9th, President Trump authorized a 90% federal cost share for debris removal, including direct federal assistance. He also authorized a 100% federal cost share for emergency protective measures, including direct federal assistance for 30 days from the start of the incident period, and then a 90% federal cost share thereafter. Well, today, President Trump increased cost sharing up to 100% federal cost share for debris removal and emergency protective measures, including direct federal assistance for 180 days from the start of the incident period. Taking a look at the eye in the economy, the Dow up 57, NASDAQ 73, S&P 500 up at 10. Coming up on News 2, more news as we continue our hurricane recovery. News from AT&T and credits in store. That's coming up next. Welcome back. Let's hear how the Wanafluwe Hospital is faring. Here's more from Erica Parsons.
Right now, our emergency room is operational. We've been operational since Hurricane Irma. We set up our command post, our command center, just to make sure that we would be able to take care of any challenges that came up during the storm. Shortly after that, you know that we were faced with Hurricane Maria, and that really kind of devastated St. Croix. But throughout it, our emergency operational remained operational. So yes, patients are currently being evacuated from the hospital. We've mostly gotten all of our patients out. Also the dialysis patients that were here at the hospital, as well as those for Caribbean Kidney Center, are being evacuated out, and that is actually falling under the Department of Health. They're spearheading that operation. However, as I mentioned before, the emergency room is operational, so if people need to come to the emergency room, if they get hurt, they have some type of an acute emergency, we're still open. They can still come right here to the emergency room. I want to really commend our staff, because many of them, they actually worked 24 hours around the clock. We started, or we implemented 12-hour shifts, and those staff, they were here with their families, they were here working. Some of the family members even volunteered, to help us when we had to mop up and different things afterwards. Our staff, I'm really thankful for them, because they continue to work around the clock. Some of them, they lost their roofs. They had severe damage to their homes, and they continue to be here, putting the hospital and the patients first, even before going to take care of their homes. So we want to just say thank you to the staff for that.
Governor Mapp spoke with President of AT&T Florida, Puerto Rico, and USVI, Joe York, who indicated that the telecommunications company is prepared to provide the supplies needed to assist in the restoration process to get the service back up. In addition, AT&T will be issuing credits, he says, on customer bills for the period during which the service was interrupted. Incidentally, the governor also noted that the generator that was reported stolen has been found and put back into service. Here's more.
They are prepared to fly in massive amounts of equipment, microwave supplies, to work on getting full restoration of the system in place. I have pledged the government's support to aid them. I have asked my FEMA partners to assist them. I am looking forward to work with Mr. York. He tells me that currently, between the last 24 hours, 35 of the technicians of AT&T have arrived in the territory on the islands, and they're doing a number of assessments and determining the extent of the damage and know what a good bit of what is needed, and a good sum of that equipment will have to come on barge, but they're prepared to make the expense, and they're going to make and are making the expense to fly in quite a bit of material to ramp up very quickly on getting the communication portals going, so that cell phones, which we rely so much on in our lives, can be back in working order as a process of safety and health. In addition, the President York has asked me to say to the customers of AT&T in the Virgin Islands that they will be issuing a great deal of credits on your bills from the time of the disaster when the sites were out and that service could not be provided, and so that we should not take stock in the text that we received that overages in terms of using above your plan during September 20 and 24th would be forgiven, but in fact, for the period of the system not functioning, they're going to issue credits to all of their customers in the territory. I'm also very heartened to announce that the generator that was stolen from the AT&T site, the FBI have found it. It has mysteriously appeared, and it has actually been put back into service. I don't have all the blurry details of the FBI find, but I did say I would say this, that the persons who made it quote-unquote findable, you forgot to get your fingerprints off of the machine.
Be sure to count on 2 to keep you updated. Meanwhile, we will have a full report from the Virgin Islands Water and Power Authority on restoration efforts. Meanwhile, WAPA is issuing a boil water advisory for potable water customers territory-wide. Under this advisory, it is recommended that water be boiled rapidly for at least 1 minute in advance of consumption to eliminate any possible bacteria that may be present. They say water that has not been boiled should not be used for drinking, making infant formulas or juices, cooking, making ice, washing fruits and vegetables, or brushing teeth. Discard all ice made previously and disinfect ice cube trays. As a reminder, if there are children in the home, place the pot on a back burner when boiling water to avoid scalds. Boil only as much water in a pot as you can comfortably lift without spilling. A common cause of bacteria in water occurs when there's a loss of pressure in a water distribution system. While loss of pressure does not necessarily mean that the water has been contaminated, it does mean that potential impurities in contact with water supply plumbing may be able to enter into the system and be carried to consumers. The authority's microbiology water quality teams are in the field, closely monitoring the system for any irregularities that may occur. The public will be updated regarding WAPA's system monitoring evaluation. And just a quick reminder, the Office of the Insular Superintendent, St. Thomas St. John District, has announced a mandatory meeting for all seniors who attend the Shaldamali High School and the Ivana Udorican High School to attend a meeting with their parents on Friday, September 29th in the Ruth E. Thomas Auditorium of the Shaldamali High School, and that's at 11 a.m. District officials are asking that students bring their school ID if possible. Students are not required to be in school uniform. Again, it's this Friday, 11 a.m. at the Shaldamali High School Auditorium on St. Thomas for high school seniors and their parents of the Shaldamali High School and the Ivana Udorican High School. And don't forget, VITEMA invites all government departments and semi-autonomous agencies which sustained damages as a result of Hurricane Irma and Maria to attend the FEMA Public Assistance Grant Applicants Briefing on Thursday, September 28th at the CAHS Auditorium. That's from 10 a.m. to 12 noon. The FEMA Public Assistance Grant provides funds to eligible government departments and agencies for the restoration of public roads, facilities, following a presidential disaster declaration. Certain private nonprofits could be eligible for assistance as well. The applicant briefing will provide a program overview, eligibility and procurement requirements. At the end of the briefing, applicants will have the opportunity to submit a request for public assistance, which will initiate the funding application process. Well, be sure to stick around. We have your News Accurate the forecast coming your way next.
Day out here today, maybe a few showers here and there, but for the most part, pretty pleasant, dry conditions. Taking a look at the satellite radar right now, not much going on. The higher elevations in Puerto Rico are seeing some showers, maybe some downpours at times, but we are keeping our eye on this tropical wave right here. Tomorrow, we're going to see an increase in cloud coverage, maybe an increase in showers. Friday, Saturday, well, that tropical wave is going to reach us, and we are going to see some frequent showers and also more clouds clouds than sunshine. So for tonight, it's going to be 78 degrees, patchy clouds staying dry. St. John tomorrow, partly sunny, 88 degrees. In St. Thomas, 88, partly sunny as well. And in St. Croix, 86, sun and some clouds. And again, we're going to see more clouds and maybe a brief shower or two as that wave approaches. The Atlantic waves 3 to 5 feet, winds out of the east from 10 to 15 knots. The Caribbean 3 to 5 feet, winds out of the east from 10 to 15 knots as well. Over the next couple days, well, those showers and the cloud coverage, they are going to increase as that tropical wave moves in. But by the end of the weekend and as we start off the work week, it is going to be back to our typical pattern, trade wind pattern of some brief showers, temperatures staying in the mid to upper 80s. Back to you.
Thanks for that. Here's a look at our news to weather picture there by Shanisha Valencia, second grader of the Lockhart Elementary School. And we see you included some sunshine and clouds. We too look forward to that weather after we experience the Hurricane Shanisha. Hope you're ready to get ready back to school time. News 2. You can send your picture as well for our weather segment. Send it to the address right there on the screen, and then tune in to see it right here on News 2. That's all for now. Thank you for joining. Be sure to follow us on Facebook and YouTube. I'm Sandra Guman Singh. Have a wonderful evening.